And if you wanted to know what was going on in many of their minds as human beings, there was doubt. There was shock and surprise sometimes at what happened around them and the reactions to them. But they were self-sufficient in their love. They knew who they were. And that alone created an entourage. They walked from place to place. And the people who saw them walk there said, "This is different." Perhaps you heard the reports that even the animals knew it was different. And this is where you're going. There is an eventuality, a potential. The snowball is rolling. That every single old soul, every human being who awakens to their own greater power will start to change chemically. The DNA will start to enhance itself physically. There will be more awareness inside. And you're going to last longer. You're going to have revelations by yourself of who you are. And the biggest issues will be things like self-responsibility, awareness of situations you're in that you shouldn't necessarily be in, not in order to let yourself grow. Some of you know very well what I'm talking about. And growth also creates some uncomfortable times. But the masters had them as well. What are you going to do when you go home? Let me ask you a question. Is this meeting a crutch for you? Do you have to come to a meeting like this in order to feel the euphoria of the love of God? Or can you walk out of this place standing tall and say, I can create this in a closet? Now here's the next question. You're with others and they're not of like mind. Can you create it then? Can you walk this euphoric way with Spirit inside you, giving you right what you might feel now, and be with others who don't agree and are giving you a bad time? What's going to happen when you leave here? Today, there were questions, there were an attempt at answers, and almost uniformly, all over the planet, the questions to channelers, to teachers, to Spirit itself are all the same. And the questions have to do with what, where, how, when, and why. It's almost like every single one of you needs to understand the mechanics of everything esoteric in order to take the next step. And that's human nature. And I'm going to say this. I'll say it again. Why do you do that? Is it really, really necessary? Dear ones, I give you the example yet again. You have a machine called the human body. It's a chemical machine. It gets you from A to B, birth to death. And it operates by itself without you thinking much about it. It's designed that way. And you work this machine during your life, and as you grow up, you learn about it. Some of you are able to control it by the health that you put into it. by the food and all the other things that you put into it. And that's about it. That's about it. Your consciousness, as you've discovered, can alter it, can make it last longer. But it operates by itself. Do you really have to be a physician and study every piece and part to walk from A to B? And the answer is no. You get into the automobile, and it gets you from A to B. And you never ever think to yourself, I must understand the workings of the internal combustion engine in order to get to A to B. Ever, you never. Because it simply works. Now I'm going to say this yet again. The awakening process of the human being that is spiritual and filled with purpose in this age has automatic mechanics that work within you. As you're aware of shift and change, Spirit is working with you. How many of you are aware of what happens when you awaken at 3 in the morning? And there are many of you who do. And do you wake up and wring your hands and go, what do you want? Or do you have the balance to raise your hand and say, thank you, Spirit, for keeping me awake? Because I recognize I'm being worked on. There's things that need repair and help. There are things that need to be enhancing. I don't have to know what they are. Thank you. You see, it's a system that is designed to work in an old soul by itself. If you open the door, light is coming in, and you don't have to analyze the waveform of it. You don't have to measure the door. You don't have to know why. You really don't. Instead, dear human being, I want you to feel it. It's either appropriate or it's not. That's what free choice is about. Is it fearful? Does it feel good or not? Discernment is not about the minutia of how it works, how long it's going to take, and where it's going. The old soul is beginning to awaken to a bigger purpose and idea. That these things come along when they should, and the more calm you are about all of them, the better they're going to work. But they're going to be stopped if you start to analyze what, why, where, who, and when. It's just going to be stopped. Because those answers, dear ones, are not available in a linear way. You all have fallen in love. All of you. Whether it's with another human being, whether it's with a master, whether it's with an animal. And it's palatable. It's beautiful. It changes your chemistry. You look at each other, human beings, in your eyes, and you're in love. And I've said this before. Do you then stop and analyze it? Do you say, well, what's happening? I can't fall in love unless I know the minutia of it. You don't. Of course you don't. Of course you don't. You enjoy it. You fall into each other's arms and you enjoy it. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. God is in love with you. And there's nothing like it. And I want to invite you to fall into the arms of that which is already inside you, called the higher self, which has the creative energy of the love of God. You fall in love. And stop asking why, or when, or how. There are answers, basic answers about the shift of the planet, where you're going, what really truly is happening. It's about an ascended human race. human by human, case by case, thinking differently on a pathway that is of a higher vibration. The result, longer life, peace on earth. We've said it before. But dear ones, this is a metaphysical, esoteric principle you're getting from A to B. It's way too complex for you to put it in a box, especially the box of 3D. And there are those who will leave here, and when they walk out the door, everything that was here stays here, because you just didn't get it. That everything that is taught here is you. It's not from the one on the stage. It's available inside you. Tonight, before you go to sleep, I invite you to retire into a room that's yours only. And I want you to think upon these things. You might even raise your arm and say, Dear Spirit, if you're there, show me. And you're going to get chills. You'll feel even your eyes are closed, that perhaps a light is bright and shining on the top of your head. And the higher self is going to wink at you and say, it's about time you ask. And you can carry that light everywhere you go. By yourself, alone. If you are fortunate enough to have a partner or family members or associate that feels the same as you do, now you're a group. It carries even more power, for where there are two or more, it's exponential. But dear ones, it starts with you. Do you dare ask the question, Dear Spirit, what is it I need to know? And you won't get a voice. You won't get handwriting on the wall. You'll get guidance, intuition, and love. This is the new human being. The one who accepts something that is complex, that affects their lives, their emotion, everything, and they don't understand it. But they don't have to. Because the design is that this, dear one, is going to get you from A to B without you knowing why. Can you do that? Discern it with your emotional heart. If you need to analyze it from a point of correctness of feeling. Don't analyze it from what you've been taught it should be, or what normally happens, or what you think happens. There's not one of you who really knows what happens, not even the one in the chair. Everything we have given you is extremely simple, because that's where you are right now. You're in a simple place with simple concepts, working a simple puzzle that is enormously complex. Just like the engine of your car. It's going to get you there if you let it. Do not fear the love of the creative source in your life. Maybe it's time you heard that. When you leave this place and you go home, what's going to happen? The ones listening to this, when you get up out of the chair and go in the other room and you're done listening to the channel of Kryon, are you going to take this with you, or are you going to shut it off? My partner calls it throwing the switch. You live a life, you go to a building and you worship, you dress for it, you come home, you live your life. A and B. And it's time that stopped. I want you to leave this place differently than you came. The entourage is making a lot of noise right now. You can't really hear it with your ears, but you can feel it with your heart. You are known by God, by name. It's time you left and knew that. Climb into the closet and be known by God, by name, with a light shining on your head. That's the message for today. It'll be the message as long as I'm here. And so it is.
So with that, let's go into a meditation and hear a little more from Kryon. And I invite you to close those beautiful, precious eyes of yours and allow yourself this moment to be completely internal moment for you, free of distraction from anything that was happening during the day and free of distraction from anything that is going to come after this program. just let all of those thoughts go into the background. You can still observe them if your mind wants to be busy with thoughts and intellect, but don't attach yourself to those thoughts. Just let them come in and go out. And the more you can keep your eyes closed and focused on the inside, the more your body can start to relax and realize that you deserve to have this moment where you can reconnect with the core essence that is within you. That unconditional love you feel from animals, it comes because it's connected in you. It doesn't come from the animal. They're just a conduit of you connecting with that essence of love that's inside of you. And so let's allow that to blossom by taking time whenever we need it to come back to that core essence of who we truly are. It can just simply be closing your eyes and doing deep breathing, and just remind yourself to do that regularly through the day if it's needed, particularly when you're with certain people that pull you away from that core source of love that's within you. And from this beautiful posture of love, let us now move into a channel from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. There are so many of you who have asked the question, how much influence do I have? And so many of you are asking about yourselves, not just the planet. Some who are esoteric thinkers say this: how much influence can I have as an old soul about the baggage I came in with? This is a subject, and it's all about what some are calling the Akash. If you've not heard this before, it's a very popular subject these days, and even psychologists are beginning to realize that you come in with certain kinds of influences that are seeming to be baked into your consciousness, that they didn't come from anything you experienced on the planet. Somehow your personality comes in a certain way, and then it's also shaped by what you experience. If you're an esoteric thinker, if you believe perhaps in past lives, like 2/3 of the world does, you realize that there is a system called the Akashic Record. What happens in certain past lives seems to then come in with you, and there's a reason. Some have called it karma, and we have told you before that this is something in this new energy that we've asked you to drop completely. It's no longer needed. But you still have that which is the Akash. And the Akash is what you have experienced in past lives that comes in with you. In the past, this has a reason, so that you will then settle it, or perhaps act on it, or do something different to dismiss it. That has been the thinking, and it's been for centuries. This has started to shift and change. There are those who would be critical of that statement and say, no, these are bases of some kind of axioms of esoterics. They never change. They do change, dear ones, because you change. If the energy of consciousness is becoming more benevolent and the shift on the planet is before you, do you see how that would then change how you learn and what you learn with? And so what I'm going to tell you, I have said before, but you need to hear it again. How influential can you be on the baggage you bring in with you? Sometimes that baggage controls your life and you don't even know it. Lifetime after lifetime, perhaps of sorrow. Lifetime after lifetime of dying early, perhaps, and you come in not expecting much from the planet. You come in and you don't smile much, very serious, wanting to know when the other shoe is going to drop. That's what it creates. And that's just something you come in with. And that's something that your parents deal with and your teachers deal with. And yes, your spiritual leaders deal with. How to get beyond that which seemed to be baked in to a consciousness when it arrived. That's the Akashic record. How much influence do you have on that? What I'm going to tell you next is known by the ancient masters. You have full influence. I want to take you to a place in India called Varanasi. And for hundreds of years, in a teaching about karma, the Akash, they know that if they go to the river there and bathe in it, the belief is this, that they can influence that which was baked into them when they came, the Akash, the karma. And they can be free of it to a certain extent so that they can proceed with their lives, or the next time around it'll be different. In other words, their belief is what I'm telling you. So for those who are critical of this message, that you have power over your Akashic baggage that you bring in, I'll tell you this, it's not a Kryon statement. This is historic. It's part of the belief system of millions and millions of people already. But this may be new to you. How much influence do you have over what you think is something that is part of you and never will go away? The answer is this. This is a new energy on the planet. I've talked about it already. My partner has talked about it even in this program. We are going to start to see a change in what some call the light and dark quotient. Right now, even as I give this message, there are some listening to this perhaps for the first time and say, what is he talking about? There's war. We haven't had war for a long time. Suddenly there's war, and Kryon says it's getting lighter. I'll say it again if you haven't heard it. Isn't it interesting that we suddenly have a war? Who expected that? And the answer is, this is from those who wish to pull us backwards, pull you backwards, pull us as your guides backwards into a very old energy of war on this planet. It's the old circle of time. That's what you're seeing. And you also have seen the reaction to it from the planet. This is all new. Are you seeing this? If you're only simply seeing the news and seeing the horror of war, you've missed it. There's something bigger going on. This energy, this lighter energy, is going to be of compassion and kindness like never before. A world that's starting to see one another as they see their family, instead of some foreign individuals in a foreign culture with a foreign language. The internet has really helped that. But more than that, the collection, the coherence of consciousness, where you start to see one another so differently than you've ever seen each other before. And in that, there are new tools. The tool set that I'm talking about is the one that's starting to blossom in every human being. The DNA is changing, and we've told you that before. Some of you are starting to accept it, realize it, and move forward with it. Some who have felt nothing is possible in my life, I cannot change who I am or what I am, are starting to have an inkling to change your mind about a tool set that you might have that you never felt you did before. And you do. You really do. And part of that tool set is to fully and completely change that which you came in with that might affect your life. And the next question, and I know those of you who are listening and saying, okay, I believe that, it's true. How? Those in India said, well, you go to a certain place and do a certain thing. It's actionable things, and it still is. But you don't have to go to India. You don't have to bathe in the river. And even those things are limited compared to what you can do today. Would you like to drop inappropriate karmic things? Drop inappropriate, I will say for the time, Akashic remembrances. We have given you examples of this. The Circle of 12 has done the same thing. But I'll tell you this, there is so much power in intent. If you're really interested, you can start that process. Your intent to do so is seen as permission for you to change that was inside your DNA. That's where it's kept. I've told you that. Did you know that pieces and part of your DNA come with you from past lives, carrying certain things, the Akashic record for one? What do you do? Dear Spirit, I have intent to drop these things that I don't need anymore in this lifetime. Can you say that? Dear Spirit, right now, I am dropping those things that do not propel me into kindness and compassion and keep me from joy and peace. Dear Spirit, I am in charge of my own biology. My soul and I together drop the inappropriate things that would get in the way of peace, joy, compassion, and happiness, or the rest of my life. I now have that power, that ability, and I'm doing that in front of all who wish to watch. I am changing my DNA. And with that, I proclaim a new lightness of spirit, a new kind of kindness for myself, which will occur. One where I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I am indeed beautiful in the eyes of all that is, because I have God inside, because I no longer have a stone to carry around or pull me backwards. I am that I am. That is your power today. An empowerment that we are telling you is new and different and belongs to you. That is your lineage. That is why you came. Congratulations, dear ones, on what you are becoming. And so it is.
I invite all of you to close your eyes and just allow this space to disconnect from any thought that you may have had, and to disconnect from any chatter that might be happening in your brain. And if there is chatter in your brain, we can just acknowledge it and say, wow, beautiful brain. Thank you for all your chatter that you bring me. But we're going into some quiet time, because we're going to disconnect from that chatter in our brain. And we're going to have some quiet time where we can connect with the energy of our heart. It's the energy of our heart that wants to communicate to us in this moment. Our beautiful heart that is present every beat throughout the day. Even if we are not aware of it, our heart is beating every moment of every day. And it's there in the silence, waiting to connect when you're ready to listen to the whispers of the silence that it exists in. And each of you has such a unique path. And the compass that guides you on that path is always the silent whisperings from your heart. And the one that guides and connects the heart is connected to the field of the Creator. That creative source that we all came from, and that creative source that we will all merge back into when we're no longer here on this physical plane of beautiful planet Earth. And so we just say thank you to our beautiful heart. Thank you for accompanying us on this amazing journey. And now we allow our heart to receive the love wash that is here, should you choose to receive it. We allow our heart to now receive that love wash from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. So much you have experienced and seen, heard in these 2 days. I speak, of course, to the audience in front of me and not to the ones who will listen later. But for all of you, listening later and here, I'd like to give you a short metaphoric message. Dear ones, we have given you so many times the idea that light is coming. And that in itself is a metaphor. For the light we speak of is enlightenment. And this takes shape in so many ways. You could say that the light is coming in wisdom, in understanding, between human and human. That's not here yet. You can say light is coming in the inventions of the planet, so that electricity can be produced without any resource being used, and food can be grown where food could never be grown before, and there would be no hunger. That's not here yet. And on, you might say, that someday there will be enlightenment even in that which is your governments and the way things work in corporations, and that it will change the face of everything. I'd like to tell you that all of that hangs in the field. It hangs in the field. That means it is your future. For those in the room and for those perhaps listening might understand, but I will tell you, your planet is on a target, a road that has a target on it. And on this road there is something unstoppable, and that's you. There was a time when I said, humanity may do this if it chooses, and you can go back in time and hear this so many times, that you have free choice, dear ones, and if you choose to do this, then it will happen. And at this point, I will tell you, at the beginning of this year, that the snowball is rolling, and you're not going to stop it. And that snowball is white, and it's light. And it may take a little longer to get down the hill than you want. But I have seen this in other civilizations, in other planets of ascension, and some of you have been on them and recognize it, and your old souls here today, because that was the plan, that you would come back and have enough lifetimes of experience to feel it and remember it and know not to be afraid, to be part of the final battle of dark and light, which may surprise you in how it develops. But even in these last 2 days, you've seen perhaps what is going on and the hope of the future. That's why you're here. And those listening to my voice, I will say to you yet again, things are not always what they seem. I want to give you, in closing, a little parable. It's the parable of a man named Woe. He's not actually a man. He could be a woe man, but we call him a man because it's convenient and you understand it better. It's a parable that stretches the imagination of reality, and that's what parables do. In some of mine, I will take you to planets that don't exist and situations that can't happen. But there's a reason. There are things you don't realize, attributes that you do not know about that which we call light. And so to show you what I mean, I'll give you this parable. If you ask a warrior, a soldier, what it's like to fight a battle at night, they will tell you it's not often done. Night battles, and even in current wars, are often with artillery. Very seldom do they meet another soldier on the field at night. Those battles are fought during the day, you say. But sometimes they're not. And if you talk to a warrior of old, where they're only using swords on the battlefield, and you say, what is it like to fight at night? They'll look at you and they say, you don't know who's there. And it's very, very difficult. And it's horror. That's the metaphor of this planet at the moment. You're in the dark. You are still in the dark. And you're fighting battles wildly in the dark. And that's the dysfunction you see. I'll take you to a planet that's very dark. And Woe is a warrior. And he's been fighting on this planet for a very long time with a very old rusty sword. And he's been put out onto the field so many times and thought it was his last time, as he would hear noises and think he's heard shapes and swing his sword. And he had been wounded a number of times, and he was in the trench once again, ready to go out and do it again. Paint this picture, it's pretty sorrowful, pretty ugly. But the planet itself was dark, and daylight never seemed to come, and it always seemed to be battle after battle with his rusty sword. It may seem funny and perhaps a little goofy what comes next. But a little green man showed up. He spoke funny. And he said to Woe, I have a special saber for you. And Woe said, really? I could use a new one because mine's so old and so rusty. Thank you. And the little green man handed him this, and it didn't look like a sword at all until they pressed a button, and out came a lightsaber. Wow. The little green man went away. Woe knew he was going to win this battle, because as soon as he turned that on, he would then be able to swipe his enemy, and he would be chief on the battlefield, and he would be winning this battle, and he wouldn't have to worry anymore. But that's not what he got. When it was time for the warriors to go on the field, and they rang the bell, and up they came out of the trenches, he raced out into the field, and he hit that button, and up came the light. What he saw around him, he didn't expect. All of the warriors that he had never seen before, he'd only heard him before, they showed up. And all around him, there was shock, as they saw not him with a saber sword, but the light that it created. And they looked around, and for the first time, they saw each other eyeball to eyeball. And they recognized they were all in shabby clothes with rusty blades, and they'd even forgotten what they were doing, and they saw each other as human beings for the first time. And collectively, without a word being spoken, while he was holding that light, they all dropped their swords and looked at each other. And almost every single one of them walked around. For the first time, they could see one another. Didn't even recognize the uniforms. Didn't even know why they were fighting. And it was the beginning of light on that planet. One man. This is a metaphor for you, as goofy as it might sound, of light where there is no light. That's what you get. You don't know how dark it is here until you see the brilliance of the wisdom that is coming. You don't see how dark it is here until someone comes along with ideas that have never been there before. And you go, why didn't we think of this before? With inventions that have never been seen before, that change not just the atmosphere of a technology, but rewrites an economy. Those are the kinds of things that happen with light. Those are the things that are hanging in the field. You've had a glimpse of them in these 2 days, of what is possible on this planet. So I will echo what my partner said earlier. Don't be afraid, because you have that saber sword. And slowly you'll understand how to create the light, what it means, and how to put it in the framework of mastery and not conflict, and how to use it so gently and so softly and so beautifully that you illuminate areas that needed illuminated and they never even knew you were there. Like the one who strikes the match in the dark room, you can't see who it is, but you see all around you. This is the future of this planet, regardless of what you're being told. This is the future of this planet, and old souls are the ones with the experience that they have who will bring it to fruition on this planet in these times. There is no accident you are here. There is no accident that you are hearing these words. Now go from this place or this recording and think about what I have said and understand who you are and how the Creator has set this up and how you have agreed to it and why you're here. In compassion and love, which are the tools of the day, I congratulate you for being here and taking the mantle of this lifetime that may change everything on the planet. I am crying in love with humanity. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Dear Creator, inside, come closer. Dear Creator, outside, come closer. Dear angels, guides, helpers, elementals of Gaia, come closer. Let me feel your support and connection. Meld with that piece of me that wants to have spiritual help come into my life, and make it in a form that I can understand and feel. I give permission and allowance for the Creator to come closer, for my angels and my guides to come closer. I accept the unconditional love that is pouring forth to me. And I give honor and thanks for this moment where I have said yes to sit and listen to the divine messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. When we started this series, I told you that I would present 4 facets or faces of compassion. There are many faces or facets of compassion, and we would look at 4. Some common, some more difficult. This is the third one. Of all of the 4 we studied, this catalytic one. The catalyst means the 3, that is, the change that is coming, if you can understand this one, is the hardest. It's the hardest because it has to do with you personally. Let us do what we have done the last 2 times. We're going to give you a definition of compassion. And the definition that we give is not necessarily the one that you'll find in your society, in your dictionaries, because it comes from us. What is, in your opinion, the highest form of compassion? And that would be the one that comes from the other side of the veil. That can be transferred, assumed, and be part of you and assimilated, because your soul is part of the creative source. I would like to give you yet again the definition of compassion. As we see it, compassion is the connection with the mind of spirit, the mind that of God, if you wish, of the creative source, a connection with the creative source, which allows a meld to occur that gives you the energy of mature benevolence, of open-heartedness, and an understanding of all that is around you. I'm going to say it again. Perhaps the words may change a little for you to hear it again and again and again. Compassion is the connection with the creative source, with God, that allows for a meld to occur that would give you the energy of open-heartedness, that would create benevolent, mature feelings that let you have an understanding that is beyond that which you've had before. What to do with that is next. Because in this, the third series of the facets or faces of compassion, is compassion for yourself. Now, if you recall the first 2, well, they're a little easier. Although the subjects were different. This subject is about you. If we would talk about one of the most difficult things for a human to do, it would be to understand how to love themselves. That's another channel. But within the scope of that, there is this, having compassion for yourself. There would be those who say, Kryon, I'm not even sure I know the difference. There would be those who say, I don't even know where to begin. You'd be right. It's difficult to look at yourself in this fashion. Almost all consciousnesses, especially of the human being, start with survival. And after that, even after you have the maturity of the enlightened spirit that so many of you have, you're still looking at yourself in a total different way. There's so many, understandably, who go through life and they fight all the way. Things happen and they don't understand. And when the things happen, they feel, well, I don't know what I've done wrong, or perhaps I'm a victim. Perhaps this lifetime nobody's going to care about me. And it goes on and on and on. And then you'll say, well, how would I have compassion for myself? If that's the case, how am I going to have compassion for myself? And then they would say, well, I know how. I'll feel sorry for myself. That's it. I feel sorry for me. I'm compassionate for me. Do you remember the first lesson? It's not pity, dear ones. Compassion is not pity. We gave you the definition. Compassion is not feeling sorry for yourself or for anyone else. Oh, no. So here we are with the idea that you can have a compassion for yourself. What have you been through? It doesn't matter how long you've lived. Young person, senior, it doesn't matter. You've all gone through things that perhaps create your feeling of being less than or beat up perhaps or down. It is common to all consciousnesses, even as you grow up. Can you look at your life so far and say, I have gone through a lot and I'm still here? In fact, I am learning how to be more kind to myself. You might say that because that is the lesson, is it not? This is what we teach, is it not? That's what the circle of 12 is all about. You sit in the chair and you start to see yourself in a different light. Can you have compassion for your journey? Again, connection with the mind of God and the meld of benevolence and understanding. Open-heartedness for yourself. Can you stand back and look at your name goes here and say, wow, what a life. What if you've been through it? You know what I'm talking about. There's an expression that I want to remind you of that we've used before. It's iron sharpens iron. Have you been sharpened lately? And if you have, can you have compassion for you in the situation, not as a victim, but as a victor? Being victorious in the light of having so many things happen and going through it and coming out the other side, as you must have, even to watch this. Wow, that's impressive. You can have compassion, connecting with the mind of God and seeing yourself and being open-hearted about it, benevolent about it, seeing yourself perhaps sitting in the chair and addressing yourself and say, I have compassion for this soul who has been through these things and has survived as a victor, not as a victim. Passing from victim to victory is that essence of having compassion for yourself. I invite some of you to hear this again so that you'll understand what I'm saying, what I'm talking about. The hardest thing for you to do is to step back from yourself. We have asked you to love yourself. You can love yourself because of what you've been through and because of that which is truly your sacred consciousness. And you'd be right to do so. You're a creature of the Creator, loved by the Creator. And that gives you the ability to be compassionate for yourself as well. I'll say it again. Compassion is the catalyst that creates things. If you can have compassion for these things that we are teaching you this month, what happens next is special. Did you know that compassion is the trigger that eliminates fear? If you are a compassionate person, you look at things completely different, including yourself. Let's say you step off into some unknown place or something startling happens, or perhaps even something negative happens. Can you then stop, back up, and go, I got through that one. Wow. Iron sharpens iron. Can you look at yourself in a series of victorious events as you conquer the fear and you conquer that which is negative around you? It's the opposite of so many who fall into that pattern. Every time something happens, they say, oh, here it is again. What's going to happen again? Is that, oh, here it is again. I can never get ahead. We're telling you, dear one, that is not your legacy. That's not why you're here. You're here to conquer every one of those things and move into a light that then creates situations that you didn't expect. If you can have compassion, that is an element of God. And that element starts to grow with you, and then it becomes second nature to you. That not only will you have compassion for others and the plan and the things that we have told you in the first two, but now you come to yourself. And when you start to have compassion for yourself, here it comes, the healing begins. The cells of your body, the diseases that might be there, the things you think are coming your way, genetically, all start to go away. Because you have chosen to be compassionate with that which is you. Your name goes here. That's when the healing starts. That's when you wipe away all of the things that would get in the way of your healing, your extended life. I've spoken of these things before. The more compassionate a person you can be, the more times you'll find yourself in the right place at the right time for synchronous things that you always prayed for. This is the love we speak of that is possible with the sacred compassion that comes with the human being. It's in your soul, it's ready to go. You just got to learn to use it and to work with it. And the more you do, the better it gets. On the four faces or facets of compassion, this one is the most difficult. Compassion for self. Congratulations if you've understood this particular message. For we give it with the compassion of love that God has for you. Your name goes here. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Again, it may seem like the man in the chair, but not to most of you. I am in a family right now in your three-dimensional presence. You sit with me and I sit with you. And what this family has in common is that you're searching. And the search brings you to a place where you will sit and listen to those things which are advanced attributes of life. Where spiritually you are willing to think beyond that which is your reality. It makes you special. Special in this way, that not all of those who would be light workers on the planet would be willing to look beyond themselves in the way you are. And so you have spent the day doing things perhaps which are a bit against the grain of what you've been taught. Learning to listen to Spirit is one of them. Difficult, some cases impossible. You know who you are. Some of you have said fine, some of you have said not for me. I know who you are. And there is no judgment of any of this. If you have to step out of your comfort zone, dear ones, it is difficult. And if you never step out of your comfort zone, the same number of angels walk out with you as walk out with the healer. But it allows me to give an advanced message. And for those who may be listening, who are not of the same kind of advancement spiritually as those in the room, this may seem strange indeed. The message this evening is not long, but it deals with profundities, and those things which are beyond that which are normal in 3D, and beyond that which even you think about, beyond that which you have been taught, and often flies in the face of all logic to the logical thinker. And who better to present these things than you? Who better to listen to these things than you? And should you accumulate the knowledge that is given this day, perhaps you, as the advanced one, the light worker, the old soul, would be then able to tell others in a succinct fashion about what you learned. And so this is the kind of group, dear ones, that would elicit this kind of information. For as I've said before, Spirit through Kryon is going to give information that suits the moment for the ones who are before me. And so let me begin. Only 2 subjects we bring, only 2, quickly, but profoundly and different than you would expect. Let us talk about contracts. In a 3-dimensional world, you have developed a spiritual term, and you call it contract. Now, my partner today spoke about these things in the lecture time, but many who hear this now were not here. But I want to take it even further than that. And what he said was this: you cannot look at a 3-dimensional linear contract in a spiritual world, for it doesn't work. For you are learning to think in a more quantum way, that is to say, a way that is not 3D. A multi-dimensional attribute placed upon you and Spirit brings you to a place where you think differently out of the logic you've been trained. All this to say that a contract is real. You come in with a yod. You come in with a purpose. You come in with something to accomplish. And you send a message to your three-dimensional self as you hear these things that says, I only have one. And it's my life's purpose. And nothing could be less linear. And it doesn't work that way. Kryon, would you please back up and give this to us in a way we can understand? Yes, I will. Let us state it clearly. There is no such thing as a lifelong contract. It cannot be this way. There are two things wrong with it. In a multidimensional state, it is always moving. In a multidimensional state, there is no singularity. Therefore, not only do you not have one contract for life, none of them are for life. In other words, you come in with multiples. Now, how can that be? I'll explain it now. And this is going to explain why some of you are so confused. If you are an old soul, let us talk about who you've been. Let us take one of you in the room who may be an orator, who may be an author. How many things have you excelled at in 1,000 lifetimes? Perhaps you're a woodworker, an artist, a musician, a sculptor, among other things. Not to mention the mother you've been sometimes, sir. And all of those things are in the soup of the now. And in you come on the planet, and as you develop as a child, your passions are all over the place. What are you going to do? And can you tell me at that point in time you're going to pick one and say, well, that's my contract? But you do. Because someone along the line told you in a question, what are you going to do with your life? And implied in that is, what one single thing are you going to do that's going to establish you? And that's the way you think, don't you? When you meet somebody for the first time and you're getting acquainted, they ask you this. They say, and what do you do? Isn't that interesting? How many human beings have you ever met for the first time and they would ask, and what have you done? How many things are you into? There's an assumption that you're singular. You do one thing and that's what your interest is. Oh, how 3D of you. And here's what I'm telling you. Multiple contracts lay upon you constantly, and they're only good for the time you want to do them. What if you should have an epiphany in your life and raise your vibration? There are those in the room who have had that. In fact, you can probably even tell me when it was. I know who's here. An epiphany in your life which had have caused you to think differently, to raise your vibration, and now you are someone else. You can even look back at who you used to be and go, I'm not that person anymore. Do you think for a moment that all of the things that laid upon you when you were 20 years old, for instance, are now applicable still simply because there's only one thing to do? And the answer is, of course not. Well, then why are you still thinking you've got one contract? Is it possible you change them? And you do. Every single day, you have the opportunity of choosing any one of dozens of purposes you might have for yourself. And your frustration is because you lay there in a three-dimensional place, confused because you don't know which one is right. What if they're all right? And if you start to understand that they could be, I would say you are starting to step into that multidimensional place where God resides. And the divinity in you is starting to show itself as you have an understanding. What shall I be this year? Shall I write the book that's always been there, even though I don't think I'm an author? Shall I stand in front of people and teach, even though I'm not an orator? Well, yes, you are, and yes, you are. Your passion can change from time to time, depending upon the energy of the crystalline grid, where you're living. Did you hear that? And who you think you are. Don't be surprised if as your self-worth increases and you work on yourself, your passion will change for what you think you want to do. And what is it that's going on there, dear one? You have just elevated yourself, brought forward things in your Akash, married yourself to different concepts that are multidimensional. And then there are those around you who go, look at that person who can't make up their mind what they want to do. And Spirit looks at you and say, blessed is the human who knows they can do many things. There is no such thing as a contract. There's only the various passions you come in with. And you're going to notice something about most of them help other people. It's the compassion factor. What is it that you can do which is compassionate? Can you write a song and give it to another person? And what will be their reaction if you do? Their heart might melt. When Beethoven wrote Ode to Joy, do you think that he foresaw millions of hearts that melt? I doubt it. But that was his contract of the day. Is there poetry in you? Is there compassionate thought? Can you create a sculpture? And you might say, no, that's not for me. I don't do any of those things. I'm not good with my hands. Yes, but you might be good with your heart. When somebody comes to you at work and wants to share something with you, are there words you can give them that would melt their heart? And that might be your contract for the day. Blessed is the human being who understands that the compassion they have in them is the true contract of God. Now, what they do with that in any direction, pulling upon their Akash or not, is what they're supposed to do. And that's number one. Don't decide you failed because you can't find one thing you're good at. Because as an old soul, you might be good at 50 things, really good at them. Really good at them. And you might start changing what you do every day. And the humans around you will think you're wishy-washy because you can't get a grasp on 3 dimensions. And you can just smile and know they're right. Because you have decided to take on the attributes of a compassionate God. I don't understand, you might say, these kinds of things, Kryon, because they're a little tough to conceive of. You had trouble with that one? Wait till you hear this one. You are advanced enough, dear ones, to listen to this. So I can plant the seeds of truth that are so bizarre to you That you may not believe it, understand how it could possibly be, work with it, because it's not in your reality, but eventually you'll know. And here it is. Let us start with the simplicity of God. That's a dichotomous statement. Do you have any trouble praying to God when you know somebody else is also? In your world, if you were going to talk to someone, including a spiritual leader, you'd take turns, wouldn't you? If somebody's talking to them, you wait in line, don't you? Do you do that with God? No. Why? And the answer is because you know God can hear multiple messages at the same time. Do you have any trouble with being in one part of the world or another part of the world or traveling from one to another and speaking to Spirit? No. What do you know about Spirit? Spirit will be in all places at once. Really? What does that tell you about Spirit? God is omnipresent. God is always with you. Spirit knows every heart, every mind. This is your mantra. I'm not giving you information you don't know. But have you ever analyzed what it might mean? It might mean that God is quantum. Outside of your reality and a quantum state, God can be everywhere at the same time, entangled with you forever. No time, no space, no distance, no singularity. Everywhere, all the time. Now, follow the logic. What are you learning here on the planet? That God is in you. I gave you the information about the splendor in your DNA. That the higher self is represented. Angelic layers are there. That chemically you're alive with God. It's inside your corporeal attributes. God is in you. Not just spiritually, but chemically. You are imbued with the divine attributes of a creator. And there you sit thinking you're singular. And you're not. Therefore, as my partner brought up today, many of you don't understand you yourself, your name goes here, are multiple. Beyond your wildest dreams. And what I'm going to tell you next, you will not understand because you have a clock. And it's a singular one. And this is going to be tough. I'm going to talk about the agreement, not the contract. The agreement to a system of love. And some of you are going to relate to this. It's beautiful. It's beyond beautiful. The system of love. I've spoken about this one other time. A system of love, and it has to do with family. This is not about chemistry. This is about the attributes of the love of a compassionate God who is inside you, who honors those who are in sorrow because they don't know the truth. Now go slow, my partner, for you are receiving a great deal of information all at once, and I can tell you're struggling to know where to begin. If you have a circle presented, and the circle has a message that is complete and total as a circle, if you take it apart and begin anywhere in the circle, that means you leave out the rest. And that is the struggle my partner has right now, because I am trying to give him a place to start. You have an agreement that in death, only part of you leaves, the corporeal part. Part of you remains on the planet, and it doesn't go to the crystalline grid. It goes to your Akashic relatives. That's a good start, my partner. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Reaching the end of the day in a workshop is different than other times, for you've gotten to know one another. You've discussed perhaps some of the issues that you have. There's more coherence. That word alone means a connection. And whether it's a connection between those parts of your body or whether it's a connection between individuals, you can feel it. It's easier if you feel it than if you define it. Coherence is when you start to understand that there's an energy in the room. The energy loves each of you. The connection is complete when you start to visualize the silver strands of love and compassion of creation that go between each of you and make a puzzle complete. There was a day when my partner started to channel, and he was learning. And he saw others channeling. He didn't know which method was correct or what to do. He sat in the chair and he shut his eyes like he saw many do in meditation. That was the beginning. Not much took place out of the ordinary until he started doing it in front of larger groups. And energy started to develop around the group, not my partner. As the group developed coherence together, the coherence was the connection between them, and that which was the creative source, the source of the connection. And that is when my partner decided to open his eyes. He never did it again. It distracted him and interrupted the channel. It broke the connection for him because what he saw, he was not prepared for. He saw light going between people. He saw colors around people. He saw the process of coherence, compassion, connection, love, whatever you want to say. It was too much. My partner says he's not a seer. He does not see energy. But while he is channeling, he does. And he would never open his eyes again because the channeling was interrupted. It was stopped. Because what he saw as a human being, he could not conceive of. It did not relate. It did not compute. And for a few moments, there was even fear. What he got to see was divinity between you. I want you to feel what he saw. And in the feeling of this, a little teaching. The difference truly between an older consciousness and a newer consciousness, between a time of darkness and light, between that what was before 2012 and now, that is palatable for some of you. And there's a big difference. And part of it is what you are experiencing in the room. Coherence between individuals is much easier when you drop the barriers and try to feel and see God in each other. Can you sit next to a stranger and know absolutely that you're connected? You're connected because souls are big. They overlap one another. The energy is something that is collective. And you start to feel one another even though you don't know each other. The difference between the old and the new, dear ones, is that there is far more coherence between you and the central source. And what this means is the old energy has you alone, working your puzzle alone, trying to figure out what you are supposed to do. A new energy in the light starts to give you a sense of coherence with everything around you, the puzzle around you, the people around you, and you get feedback. And in the old energy, you were not even sure. You didn't know. You questioned. You weren't certain. In the new energy, I'll give you a hint. We talk to you. We talk to you in situations. We talk to you in so many ways. And those who are in the old energy and used to the old energy are still perplexed. You don't understand what we're saying. So I want to talk about timing. Each and every one of you in the room listening is part of a grand puzzle between human beings on this puzzle, on this earth. Now, light workers, meaning old souls, you have a more complex puzzle than most. For you are awakening and cognizing the fact that there is more light than there was before, and you, of all human beings, know how to use it. You've been working the puzzle of light and dark for eons. The earth has an expanding population. That should tell you, where are the new souls coming from? They're coming from a pool of souls that haven't been here. And so that leaves you, who have, to guide the ones that have not. And you're not going to give them a course. What you're going to give them instead is coherence, love, compassion, understanding. But I want to talk about timing. You're unique. Each one of you, old souls, again, has a complete and separate path. What are you doing with your life right now? If you go around the room, if you sample who's listening, they'll all have a separate story. And so how can we give teaching instructions about how you're supposed to know if you're in the right place at the right time? Especially those of you who have a compelling feeling you're supposed to be doing something. So let's address that compelling feeling. It doesn't matter what the something is, dear ones, because it leads you into balance, or helping others, or helping yourself, or an exposition of the light that you carry. Almost all of you ask the question, whether it's how to discipline your child or whether it's how to write a book. These are the issues that make the difference in life, because you care, because you're asking Spirit, because you're asking other light workers, because you sit in the room or listen to the channel. There are so many projects and puzzles and issues. Let's address the projects. In an old energy, I give you a metaphor. You got a ticket to ride the train. Now that's a metaphor for you being given a push to do something. Now we have said this many times. The push creates a habit. The habit is what you've had from all authority since time has begun. When your father tells you to clean up your room, when does he mean clean up your room? And so the knee-jerk reaction to the push from Spirit to create something or do something, which comes through intuition, the result is do it now. And so you push yourself. That is an old energy aspect, and we have displayed it, expanded on it, and taught it for years. It's time for a new metaphor. You're given the ticket to the train. And then you're put in a box. In an old energy, the box was this: I don't know if the train is here. When is the train coming? The train could be outside waiting for me. I'm going to miss the train. So I'm going to start right now. I'm going to be prepared. That push said I should do something. I've got the information. I know it's right. I got to write the book. I got to go over here. I got to start the healing center. I got to buy the land. I got to talk to this person or something. I've got to connect. That's the train. And you're in the box. You have no idea. And so you push yourself. And the result is you do it completely and totally out of timing. Come out of the box and you realize it didn't work. Then you start blaming yourself. You don't know where the train came and went. You missed the train. Of course, that's human nature. If the train isn't there, you missed it. You never said, well, it hasn't come yet. Now let me expose the new energy. You get the ticket and you're not put in a box because now the track is illuminated. And so you stand with the ticket and you wait for the train. Or do you? If the train is not on the track, that is a perfect signal in the daylight to say it's not ready yet. You're not getting on a train that isn't there. Are you getting this? When the train arrives, you get on it and you begin the project, you finish it, you work on it. If the train isn't on the track, it means it's not time yet. Even if you have scheduled a time for your own project when you think you can or when you should or whether it's convenient or whether it's efficient, it doesn't matter if the train isn't there. So in the new energy, the operative word is see the track, see that it's a signal to you. You're getting feedback. It's not ready. You're not in the box worrying, wondering. You're right outside looking at the track. And if the train isn't there, that means be patient. Schedule another time. Wait a bit. Because it's coming. Look, you got the ticket. The ticket is the intuition you're supposed to do this. But now in this new energy, there is a beautiful thing to say to you that you're out of the box looking at the track. Don't pull the old paradigms into the light that says you don't know, or it's not working, or you're stuck. No, you're not. The train isn't there. Simple. And then you're going to say, well, when is it coming? You know it's coming when the puzzle starts to be complete, when the things around you are moving so it's going to work. You don't want to start something that's going to fall on its face because others aren't ready or because the information is not complete. You don't want to start that. That's old energy things. You've all done that, dear ones, all of you. You've made it happen too soon. You've jumped the gun, as they say, because you're in the box. You didn't know. You got information and acted on it. That's what humans do. But suddenly an old soul with wisdom will get the intuition and go, I love this information. The train isn't here yet. Dear Spirit, when the timing is right, show me. Dear Spirit, when the train has arrived, make it clear to me. That is when I will perform. That's when I'll act. And that's when everything's going to come to me that should come to me. Instead of me pushing and worrying and saying, why am I stuck? Am I getting through? It's beautiful. The light is here to show when the train is coming. Rearrange your schedule to coordinate with the messages that are being given to you so clearly. Don't interpret the messages incorrectly. See them for what they are. This is new. There is guidance here in the way things are working or not working for you. And if you push and they don't work, stop and wait until the train arrives. There has never been a time like this where the clarity of your movement is being targeted to you in this way. But so many of you listening to this are not understanding it. And now is the opportunity for you to clear the boards, cognize what I am telling you, and accept this marvelous light from Spirit that wants to guide you to the right place, take you out of the box, and make you understand that situations that you encounter are not situations that are accidental. They're giving you a message. Go, stop, wait. Never before has it been so clear. But again, in the old energy, you just thought you were stuck. So I want you to proceed from this point on with this information. Spirit is connected to you by a beautiful silver thread. All of you. And this silver thread, this metaphor, can never be broken. Whether you choose to see and use the thread is your free choice. But when you see it and you grab a hold of it, that's when the communication starts. And because it's connected to all of you, that's when you start to get simultaneous messages collectively that pull you together in coherence. To try to make things happen and will happen that haven't happened before on this planet. When the coherence between humanity reaches even a marginal point, there will be peace on earth. For the coherence is the agreement of compassion between all humanity that you will never kill each other again by design. That is wisdom, and that comes from the light, which is going to be yours. I'm going to say this, do not misinterpret it. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You have only begun this process. So you may see things on the planet you don't understand. But know this, that this light which is coming out is going to shake up everything. And the planet is not as it used to be, will not necessarily react as it used to. But you've got to go through these gyrations in order to know what you want and what you don't. And there are not enough yet old souls on board to make it necessarily smooth. So why don't you come on board? If you're hearing this and understand that an awakening to the light is an awakening to a longer life. It's an awakening to less anxiety and more solutions. It's an awakening to the silver thread that connects you with all humanity and the creative source, and always has. Look to the indigenous and the ancients for what they believed, what they know, and how they lived. For they honored their ancestors, which is another way of saying the wisdom that was learned before was applied to them. They honored the earth, which is to say they understood the connection between Gaia and humanity. They breathed the air that Gaia gave them and said thank you. And there was an alliance between them and all things that created something that lasted and lasted and lasted. Let this connection begin again with modern society. Let the light come out so that you will understand the signals from Spirit to go, to come, to be. What if I told you that the ancients actually had those signals? And they saw them in the animals, in the sky, in the stars, and the planet. They planned on them. They believed in them. I'll tell you, the creative source gave them what they asked for. And that's how they guided their lives. You lost it completely. Now it's time not to do what they did in that way, but to trust your intuition, ask for the guidance, know when the train is there. A return to what the ancients practiced and knew that was in general what is available today. I hope some of you leave this room differently than you came. Those listening, perhaps, can breathe a sigh of relief that nothing is wrong in their lives. You've got a beautiful ticket, some of you. And this beautiful ticket, intuition, says you've got this talent. You can put this together. You can do these things. But not yet. There'll come a time. It's going to be so obvious. You meet the right people, the right conditions show up. And you got to smile at that point and says, "Dear Spirit, here's my ticket." Believe it. Breathe easy, and you are known by God. And so it is.